Perl has a small number of functions for dealing with numbers. Numbers are not really the strength of this programming language. This programming language was designed for dealing with text, and it does that very, very well. While some scientific and mathematical applications have been written using Perl, they are typically done using libraries and not using the built-in functions. Perl has a limited number of functions for dealing with numbers, and we'll look at some of those right now. We'll start by making a working copy of builtins.pl and call this one numbers.pl. We'll open that. One function that Perl has for working with numbers is to get the integer of a number. So we'll declare a number and we'll call it 123.456. It's got a fractional part there. And so we'll say my n2 equals int of number. And we'll go ahead and print that. n2. Save and run, and you see we have the integer part of the number. Perl has some functions for converting from other bases, like for instance converting from hexadecimal. If we had a number here that was represented as a string, and that string was a hexadecimal number, say A5, then you can use the hex function to convert that into an integer and then display that, and it will of course display in base 10. We can save this and run it, and there we have A5 in decimal. Likewise, if we have an octal number, we can convert from octal, and of course this is not a valid octal number, but 7.5 would be a valid octal number. And save and run, and there's that number converted to decimal. Perl also has a function for generating random numbers, and it'll use your hardware's random number generator if your hardware has one. And we'll just get rid of this n2 variable for now and use the number variable. And we'll say rand and save that and run it. And so this gives us a random number, and you'll notice that this random number is less than 1. If you want it to be scaled differently, you can put in a number here, say 100, and it will give you a random number scaled up to 100. I'll save and run. So we'll get 86. If we run it again, we'll get a different number. Run it again, we'll get a different number. So these are all under 100. And if you want, of course, just the integer part of that, you could wrap this random function in an integer function and get just the integer part of that. There's 10. 17. These are all integers under 100. You can also seed your random number generator by using srand, and that allows you to give it a seed. And what this does is it gives the random number generator a starting place. So if you seed it with a constant number, it will always give you the same random number. For instance, if we seed it with, say, 125, and save that and run it, then that random number comes up as 2 every time. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll seed it with some combination of the process ID plus the time and maybe something else. And then every time I run it, I'm guaranteed to get a different number. And there we have that. So those are some of the number functions that Perl supports. There are a few more. There are a limited number of mathematical functions like cosines and tangents and things like that. You can find those in the documentation. If you run Perl doc and type in Perl func, you get a complete list of the built-in functions that are available in Perl, and they're categorized down here. And there's the list of numeric functions, and you can look them up individually in Perl doc.